Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Tuesday, November 3rd edition of the MMAOB Daily Podcast, the 2020 election edition of the MMAOB Daily Podcast, although we won't be really talking about that election today. That's what everyone's talking about, Cole, but I want to talk about MMA, man, because we have so much to talk about, Cole. We had a really good card in the weekend, UFC. There was a Bellator card last week. This weekend, we got another UFC card. We have a Bellator card. We have a Dana White Contender Series. We won't be doing Bellator today. I'll do that Thursday by myself, but we will be doing UFC and Contender Series today. So we have a jam-packed show, Cole. Before we get into anything, I just want to know how you're doing, man. Everything good?
Yeah, I'm doing well. What about you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Are you going to bet on the big game tonight?
Probably not.
Yeah, I don't know. The last time I bet an election was Trudeau. I think he was an underdog against Harper, but generally I stay away from this stuff, man. You never know how it's going to go, but we'll see what happens. I know a lot of people want to talk about that, but I do want to talk about MMA, so let's start with that. I'm going to start with UFC on ESPN 39, Cole, also known as UFC Vegas 12. Great card on Saturday night, Cole. Awesome card. A lot happened, man. A lot of notable stuff. But we got to start with the main event here. Uriah Hall knocks out Anderson Silva in the fourth round. I thought it was a great fight. It was a back-and-forth fight. Anderson looked really good, in my opinion, the first couple rounds. I thought he won the first two rounds, so he was up 29-28. But end of the third round, got caught with a big punch. He was already up that round, too, until he got dropped. And then the fourth round got finished with strikes. Very emotional moment after the fight. Uriah Hall and Anderson Silva weeping in the cage together, embracing. It was a cool moment, man. Very emotional. But that's it for Anderson Silva in the UFC. He might still fight in MMA. But before we talk about Anderson, I want your thoughts on Uriah Hall because, you know, this is a guy that's been very inconsistent in his career, and he's had lapses of just weird moments in his fights. And even he's admitted, like, he has issues in his own head where he doesn't want to hurt these guys because he respects them so much. And that happened in this fight. Like, he said it was the hardest thing he's ever had to do. But he ultimately got the job done, Cole, and I was impressed by the win. Although I think Anderson was more competitive than I expected him to be, I still was impressed by Hall getting that finish in the fourth round. What do you think's next for primetime, Cole? Because I know you're pretty high in him.
I thought you can do a couple options. I think the two that make the most sense is rebook that Yoel Romero fight that got postponed from August. I think that's something you could do. It could headline a card, like you get Hall headline, or you could just make it a co-main on like a pay-per-view or a main card on a pay-per-view or whatever. Or I think he fights the winner of Jacare Souza, Marvin Vettori. He was already supposed to fight Jacare. I think those two probably make the most sense. I can't see him getting one of those top-ranked guys other than Yoel, but Yoel's on that losing streak, so he kind of needs a win. It would be a fun fight between him and Yoel. So I think those are the two options that they like to see, either Yoel or the winner of Jacare, Marvin Vettori.
I think those are both good fights for sure. Hall right now ranked number 10. So you look at guys above him. Kelvin Gastelum is number 8. They could do the rematch. They fought at the Ultimate Fighter finale years ago. I remember picking Kelvin Gastelum as an underdog. He was like plus 300 that night. That was a good night for me. So I think that rematch could happen 7 years down the road. Looking at the rankings, Derek Brunson's also available. That's another rematch, though. Then you said Yoel Romero. I mean, if he wants to fight someone in the top 5, that'd be the fight to take. Or they could do the rematch with Paul Costa or Jared Canyers, too. So there's a lot of options for him right now. I think he's in a really good spot. Let's talk about Anderson Silva, though, because obviously he was the big story of the night. He ends up getting knocked out. He retires. Dana White had some really critical comments after the fight, Cole. I think too critical because I actually think he looked pretty good in this fight personally. I'd like to hear your thoughts on that. But according to Dana White, that's it for the UFC with Anderson Silva. They're done with the Anderson Silva business. And he says it's going to – I saw your article. He calls it disgusting that they would even let another promotion would let him fight. I'll be honest, Cole, I think he's going to sign with Bellator. I think it makes a lot of sense. I think there's fights for him there. You could do the Chael trilogy. I have an article on MMA ratings. I want to plug that right now. I think I did a pretty good job in this article. I spent a long time looking at the roster. There's a lot of good fights for him. I think Melvin Manhoff, who fights this weekend, that'd be a great fight. That's a fight that's fair. You have a 44-year-old against a 45-year-old. If he wants to fight at heavyweight, there's fights for him. Rampage, Fedor. There's legends fights, Cole. There's also fights at light heavyweight, fights against guys like Lyoto Machida, Ryan Bader, too. So there's a lot of fights for him there. A little bit more fair than I think he'd fight in the UFC right now. So what do you think? Do you think he's done, or do you think he's going to sign with Bellator or somewhere else?
I think he's done in the UFC, but the big question is he still has one fight left on his deal. So technically the UFC has to offer him 3 fights a year. They have to pay him. And as soon as Anderson's going to get a fight offer, he's going to accept it. So the UFC kind of, maybe they just keep him on, just pay him his 3 fights a year. Because I think Dana White probably knows they release him, he's going to sign somewhere else. He's going to sign Bellator. And Bellator, even if they only have him for 3 fights, 2 fights, can market Anderson Silva's fighting. Anderson Silva main event against like Lyoto Machida, Anderson Silva against whatever. It's going to sell. So I think that's what the UFC doesn't really want, is they don't want to see Anderson end his career somewhere else. But I have a feeling he's probably going to fight again and won't be in the UFC.
Yeah, and I know what you're saying about the contract status for sure, but like Dana White said in the press conference, he's like, we paid him so much money for this fight. Like, you guys have no idea how much money he's getting. So I don't know if it's a situation where they would like make him fight that last fight, or at least offer to him. I think they might just release him, Cole. He's 45 years old. I think they'd be okay with letting him go. They let go of a lot of really good fighters over the years to Bellator. And it's someone in when I wrote the article yesterday, I had two guys actually comment, and they said that Chael Sonnen makes sense for a trilogy fight. Chael's I think he's retired right now, but he works as a commentator. That fight makes sense, Cole. So to me, that's where he's going to go. But right now, it's hearsay. It's just my opinion. Going down the card here, Cole, Bryce Mitchell defeats Andre Fili via decision, and then went on an anti-mask rant afterwards, which everyone's talking about, but no one's really talking about his fight. The guy improved to 14-0. He's 5-0 in the UFC. I think it's time for a top 10 opponent, Cole. What do you think?
I think so too. I think he looked good against Fili. Obviously, didn't get that finish he wanted. Fili's a tough guy though, so I don't really play much into it. But like looking at the rankings, like
he's 15th right now. Bryce Mitchell.
Like I don't know if he's gonna get a top 10 guy, because top 10, maybe you do like Shane Burgos when he's back, or like a Ryan Hall fight would be
that'd be a great
amazing.
Fight. Oh my
Ryan
God,
Hall versus Bryce Mitchell.
Fight. Yeah, I'm with you on that one. Were they supposed to fight in May? I think, weren't they? And then he fought Charles.
They were.
He fought Charles Rosa instead. I think I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure. Looking at the rankings, Arnold Allen's a guy without an opponent. Jeremy Stevens was injured, but those are two guys that he could fight. So did Yusuf, Shane Burgos. So maybe he doesn't get a top 10, but I think that Ryan Hall fight makes a lot of sense, Cole. But either way, the anti-mask thing was pretty stupid. It is his opinion, but I'm just looking at his in-cage skills. This guy is a talented grappler, man. There's no doubt about it. And Fili's a guy I respect. I think we both picked him last week, right? So that's a guy that we both respect, and that's a nice win for him on his resume. Fili's not ranked by any means, but it's still a good win. So overall, an impressive performance. 1 second here. Now, I want to ask you about Greg Hardy here, Cole, knocking out Maurice Smith, and then going on this rant afterwards, how he's like basically like marginalized, and people don't give him enough respect, and that he had an emotional breakdown before the fight. Just what are your thoughts on Greg Hardy right now?
I'm not a Greg Hardy fan. I don't think I ever will be. I'm not one of these people that root against him or like don't tune into his fights. I just don't like him as a person. As a fighter, he's obviously a pretty good fighter, but as a person, on a human level, I don't like him. I don't like what he's done. If you beat a woman, you're automatically like, I don't really think you get much of a second chance. And he keeps on saying, oh, he's an innocent man, but the girl just never showed up to court. So like it's kind of sketchy, where a lot of people have claimed that he paid her off to not show up to court. So it's a lot of sketchy things, but he there's a reason why he got kicked out of the NFL. Like, if he was an innocent man, he would have never been kicked out of the NFL, because the NFL lets a lot of people.
They let a lot of guys who beat their girlfriends off stay in the league. Like what's his name, Kareem Hunt, I think, didn't he? Yeah. So that's Joe Mixon. That's another guy. They're very lenient there in the NFL. So the fact that he kind of got ostracized in that league definitely shows something. But you know what? All that stuff aside, and obviously we have to talk about it because it's part of his story. But as far as his skills inside the cage, I mean, he's pretty impressive, Cole. For a guy who's only been fighting MMA for what, 3 years now? 2 years, he's already 4-2-1 no contest in the UFC in 2 years. That's pretty impressive, man. I mean, for a guy that doesn't have much experience, he's doing okay. Obviously the guys he's beating aren't that great by any means, but a guy like Maurice Green's pretty well-rounded fighter. That's a nice win for him. So what's next for him, man? Does he get a top 15 opponent? That's what he wants. Do you think he gets someone like maybe like, I don't know, like Walt Harris or something like that? Like the Good versus Evil fight? That'd be a good fight, right? Good versus Evil. I don't know. Like, I'm just looking at the rankings right now. Blagoy Ivanov's 15th or 14th. Taburo's 15th. You think those fights make sense?
I think they make sense. But maybe like if they don't give him someone in the rankings, I think like maybe a Tai Tuivasa fight makes sense.
Okay, that's
just be an interesting one. Yes. He's a guy that was ranked, sort of a name. It's going to be a striking matchup. One of them's probably going to get knocked out. But if they give him a ranked guy, I think it's going to be like a Pavlovich, Ivanov, Tybura, someone like that. But problem with Tybura is I think Tybura can really
you just wrestle him, right? Yeah.
And make it a boring fight. And I don't really think the UFC wants to put Hardy into that fight.
Yeah, I agree with you on that completely. Next up, we had I just missed it. Where is it? Okay, Kevin Holland defeats Charlie Ontiveros. I mean, this was a squash match. It was a joke fight. This guy's been finished at all of his losses now. An hour after the fight, he's fine. He's taking pictures of Izzy. I don't even know what to say about this fight, Cole, honestly. It was a joke of a fight. I know it was a short replacement, but I'm not convinced this guy was even hurt, honestly. What do you think?
I mean, I don't think this guy's UFC caliber. I think he's probably going to get one more. He's going to get finished, and he's going to get cut. Like, even though look at the guys he beat. Like, he beat guys that were like 3-5, 2-2. Lost to a guy that was 2-3, 1-0. Like,
I just don't understand how a guy with an 11-7 record with 7 stoppage losses in the UFC. I understand they need short-nosed fighters, but they couldn't have found someone better. It's kind of weird to me. Anyways, Kevin Holland calls out Mike Perry. Mike Perry's fighting Tim Means. We'll talk about that fight later. But yeah, Kevin Holland's great. I love Kevin Holland, Cole. He's got to be fighting ranked guys only now. Like, I know this was short notice again, but he should be only fighting ranked opponents at this point. He's got 4 wins in the last 5 months. He's a great fighter. I love Kevin Holland. 7-2 now in the UFC, Cole, in 2 years. So this is a guy who he's only been fighting pro for 5 years. I mean, he's a really good talent, man. I love watching Kevin Holland fight. The trash talk. There's another guy in the card, the trash talk. Maybe that's a good fight too. Now, there was one big upset in the card here, Cole. Tiago Moises defeats Bobby Green. Big upset. He was like plus 250. I didn't see it coming, man. I thought Green would win this fight. It was a super close fight. I do think Moises won the fight. I think he edged it out. You were pretty surprised, I'm assuming, as well.
Yeah, I did think Green won, though. I did score for Green. It's not like – it's one of those fights where I went to the scorecards. I'm like, give it to Moises. I can see it. Give it to Green. I can see it. It's not one where I was like, oh, this is Bobby Green won that fight. Like, every single round was pretty close. Like, it was a close fight. I didn't have a problem with either of them winning, but I did not see this one coming. I thought Bobby Green would just kind of piece him up on the feet.
He just didn't respect him at all, man. He had his hands down his waist. The first minute of the fight, I go to my girlfriend. I was watching it there. I'm like, he doesn't respect him. He has no respect for this guy and his stand-up skills, and he ends up losing a decision. So this reminded me of the fight with Dustin Poirier. I don't know if you remember that fight where he had his hands down, got KO'd in like the first round. He didn't get knocked out here by any means, but it was just a poor performance by Bobby Green. And it's one of those fights, Cole. It's like the Yusuf Zalal guy where he lost a few weeks ago. He had 3 wins, and the other guy takes all his momentum away. So Bobby Green's momentum's gone, and now Moises. And, looking back, Cole, we were both pretty high on Bobby Green coming to this fight. I don't regret picking him by any means, but I do wish I looked into Moises more because looking back at it, he's 10 years younger, 9 years younger. That's a huge advantage in MMA. So looking back, that was something that they definitely played a factor because you look at the volume, the fight and the grappling. There were some moments where Green looked good too with his boxing, but overall I thought Moises edged it out. But either way, super close fight. Trust me, man. I wanted Bobby Green to win, dude. Trust me, for my own sake. But I thought he lost. Going down to the prelims here, Cole. A guy you're super high on, obviously, Alexander Hernandez. I think maybe his best win in the UFC so far. Yeah. I know not name recognition because he beat Dariush in his debut, but just the way he destroyed Chris Gritzmacher here, Cole. Incredible performance. I know you're super high on Alexander. What do you think's next for him?
I still think they got to slow build him up. I think that was the problem. As he even talked about in my interviews, he even called. He said he wanted that McGregor-esque rise, where he just wanted to get to the top so quick, and it kind of backfired on him. So I think he's going to get a slow rise. I wouldn't be surprised if he's not fighting a ranked guy next, someone outside the rankings. He even mentioned it too. He's like, he's trying to game the game now, where he was fighting guys like Cowboy Cerrone, and he was making like 30 grand, and Cowboy Cerrone's making like 200 grand, whatever he's making. He said, why am I doing this? I'm fighting someone around my pay level. So I think that's kind of what he's going to want to do. I think he's going to try to build himself up, get another win or two like this, and then try to get back in the rankings.
Yeah, and he got a bonus in this fight. I'm sure that 50,000 helps him. I should have mentioned Holland got a bonus too. There was a lot of finishes. I'm not sure I would have given it to Holland.
No, me either.
I think they gave it to him because he's been taking so many short notice fights and doing them a favor. It was just almost like a thank you. But to me, Cole, honestly, knocking out Anderson Silva is way more impressive. The second guy to knock out Anderson Silva, I think that's more impressive, but that's just me. Going through the rest of the card, Adrian Yanez, he also won a bonus. Great knockout here over Victor Rodriguez. You got to fade guys from Alaska FC, Cole. They all stink except for that one guy, Urich or whatever in Contender Series we talked about. Sean Strickland had a great performance here against Jack Marshman, wins the unanimous decision, Cole. He looked incredible in this fight. Lots of trash talk. It was fun to watch, man. Yeah. It was awesome, dude. Fall, Jack, fall. Why won't you fall? I loved it, man. I was so entertained by this fight. Strickland looked amazing back at middleweight. He's never lost at middleweight. You know that, right? He's 15-0 as a middleweight. So he's an underrated guy. He was so good in his first couple of fights at the UFC. He made the mistake of moving to welterweight because he thought, having the size advantage would help him. But that weight cut, man, it's very hard. Going down the card here, Cole, your boy Cole Williams, he's getting his ass cut from the UFC.
100%.
This guy absolutely stinks. I'm sorry, I don't want to fighter bash. This guy, he doesn't respect the game though. That's why I did say that, because he doesn't respect the game. He missed weight twice, egregiously both times, Cole. Like, I think a combined 8 pounds he missed weight, right, for both the fights. So it's a guy who doesn't respect his opponents. He doesn't respect the UFC. There's no way they can offer this guy another fight. Somehow they offered that girl Vanessa Mello a fourth fight, and she's missed weight in all her fights, which blows my mind. I don't think they can offer this guy another fight. Jason Witt's not a great fighter. This guy made him look like Khamzat Chimaev. This guy's getting cut, right?
Oh, 100%. I don't think he's on the UFC roster anymore.
Yeah, it's just like I said, Cole. It's disrespectful to your opponent. It's disrespectful to the sport when you come in that heavy. You miss by a pound, it sucks, but it can happen. You missed by 4.5 pounds. You didn't try. You didn't even try. Dustin Jacoby had a great performance here against Justin Ledet, knocks him out the leg kick and punches, and then Miles Johns knocks out Kevin Natty Vida with an absolutely brutal uppercut to open the card. I didn't see that coming at all. Natty Vida has been knocked out once in his career. It was a flash knockout like 7 seconds in the fight. This was an absolutely vicious KO. Didn't expect that one, Cole, from Miles Johns. Overall, what are your thoughts on these prelims I just mentioned?
Yeah, they were pretty good. The Miles Johns KO was crazy. Jacoby good to get him first UFC win. Jason Witt just made literally looked like he was a champion fighting some unranked guy. Like, it was domination. And Adrian Yanez, obviously, I kind of saw that happening. My brother had one of his friends over, and I'm like, they're like, who do you think wins this one? I said, it's going to end either in a minute or it's going to end in 2 minutes. And I think it ended in like 2:10 or something like that. Like, I did not expect that fight to last long. I thought Yanez would just get him out early. I think
sorry, go ahead.
Alaska FC just continued to fade.
I agree completely. Overall, it was a great card, though. I thought it was really good. Just really quickly, the Bellator, I don't want to spend much time on this, but Bellator 250 did take place on Thursday. We haven't had a chance to talk about it. Gegard Mousasi defeats Douglas Lima. I thought it was a great performance. He looked really sharp in this fight, Cole. Any thoughts on Gegard's performance against Lima?
I think it's time for Bellator to stop making these welterweights move up to fight.
Why are they doing this? They destroy these guys. Rory McDonald. At least Douglas didn't get finished.
The thing is, I have no problem doing like featherweight to lightweight, but it's 15 pounds. Like that's and Gegard's not he's got used to fight at heavyweight, and I honestly think he could be a natural light heavyweight. I think he cuts down a lot to get down to middleweight, and Douglas Lima is not a middleweight. Like, he was big in there, but I think that was him just adding size to that. So I'm kind of glad he lost, just because I don't like this whole championship thing, because then you kind of shut down the whole middleweight and welterweight division, and I think Gegard, obviously it's good for him, and then immediately Scott Coker saying, oh, maybe he moves up to 205. Like, why don't they just let their champions fight contenders? Why is it always champion versus champion there? Yeah,
no, I'm with you. And now they're talking about him moving to 205. So they don't even want him to stay at 185. When, to be honest, there's not many challenges there. It's really just John Salter and Mousasi. I looked at their division, called their middleweight division. It's absolutely garbage. It's terrible. There's a few guys coming up like Van Steenis and stuff. Fabian Edwards, like, there's some decent talent, but there's no one that's like really gonna give Gegard a challenge. I think Lima was the one guy that could, and he was a lower weight class. So I think he does move up to 205 to fight Nemkov next year. That's a great fight. I honestly think it can go either way. Nemkov's super impressive, but Mousasi's a beast, so that'd be a good fight. And I really don't want to talk about too much on this card, but I do want to mention this decision here between Corrales and Gertz. It was a clear 30-27 Corrales, and somehow one judge went 30-27 Brandon Gertz, which is another example of a judge really not knowing who the two fighters are, in my opinion. And then Jake Hager, he won a split decision. I didn't catch the fight, but you told me it was a pretty competitive fight.
Yeah, he almost got finished at the end of the second round. He was saved by the bell.
Yeah, I didn't see the fight. I just heard about the decision. I heard he got into a war. I'm going to take some comments from Kenshiro. Hey, Kenshiro, morning. Trump 2020, shout out to my boy Trump. You got him 1,700 plus 170. I mean, you got a chance, Kenshiro. I guess you keep hitting the line or something. That's crazy. He says degeneracy creates more degeneracy. Yeah, like I said, the last time I bet in an election was Trudeau in Canada. He was an underdog in Stephen Harper. That was a good bet. Here's what Kenshiro says. They had caught Justin Ledet. Now, I kind of agree with this too, but Justin Jacoby went on Twitter after and said, please don't cut this guy. Give him one more chance at heavyweight. The move to light heavyweight didn't pan out for him at all. He's 0-3 or 0-4 at light heavyweight now, whereas he was undefeated at heavyweight. So you think they get Justin Ledet one more fight at heavyweight?
I don't know. What is this? 4 in a row now?
I think it's 4 in a row, yeah.
I don't think so.
He's been fighting pretty good guys. I mean, Jacoby's not a bad fighter by any means.
Yeah.
Okay, now that's it for Bellator. I want to go to UFC now. We'll start the preview here, Cole. So let me pull it up here on Tapology and just give me your quick thoughts on the card as a whole.
It obviously sucks losing the Alhassan fight and the Dober Freire fight. That really took a hit to the card. It's an all right card. Like, there's some match I'm looking forward to. 10 fights, but again, it starts like the main card's at like 10 p.m. Like, why?
I don't get that. I honestly loved it last week. It started at 4 o'clock for the prelims, so it was a nice day. I was in bed early for once, so this is going to be a late night. I don't understand why. Maybe there's a college game on, college football, I'm assuming. That's the only thing I can think of, because I don't know why they'd start late. All right, let's get right into it, Cole. We'll start with, I'm going to use the Tapology boat over here, guys, so I know it's a little different on different websites. We're going to use Tapologies. Starting off the card, Max Griffin against Ramiz Brahimaj at 170 pounds, and right now we have Max Griffin. He is a minus 155 favorite. Brahimaj plus 135. Who's your pick?
Well, when this fight got announced, I was all over Ramirez. I thought Ramirez was the side, and I was looking into it. I actually like Max Griffin here. Ramirez hasn't fought in a while, and he obviously comes from a good camp at 4-7-8. But the problem is he's strictly a jiu-jitsu guy. I don't think his takedowns are that good on the feet. He's not that good on the feet. Like his whole game plan is get the fight down the ground. I'm not really sure he can get Max Griffin down the ground. Max Griffin is underrated wrestling. He was taking Alex Morano down at will. He doesn't really get taken down too much. So I think if this stays on the feet, Griffin's going to be a lot better striker where he's just going to pick apart Ramirez. But it's hard to trust Max Griffin at the same time. Like, I wouldn't lay chalk on Max Griffin. He's a guy I'd really only want to lay plus money on just because he is so inconsistent. You don't really know which Max Griffin you're going to get. But I like Max Griffin in this spot to get the win, but I wouldn't be betting him at this price.
This is a tough fight to call, I think. And I remember a few months ago, Brahimaj was supposed to fight with Sado, I believe. We both picked him in that fight. So I think we're both pretty high on him. Now, the layoff's a massive concern. He hasn't fought since March 2019. Now, he was obviously training for a fight in June. He got COVID, and he couldn't fight in that fight, so it's unfortunate. Looks like he's healthy now. I don't know, Cole. It's a tough fight. I agree. I think it's dog or pass, personally. I would not bet on Max Griffin. I don't think you can. Max is just too inconsistent. He's also 34 years old, but you look at his UFC record, well, it's like 3-6. That's a guy that if you've been fading him, you've been making money on. I don't see any real reason to go against him here, to go with him here. I think you got to go against him again. I know Brahimaj, like you said, he hasn't fought in a while, and we don't really even know how his skill set's going to translate to the UFC, but I'm just not sold on Max Griffin, man. Even that one fight he did win against Amadiev, you could have lost that fight too. He could have been on a 5-fight losing streak. Does have that win over Mike Perry, which looks okay now, but it was a couple years ago. I'm just not convinced Max Griffin's really just even a good welterweight anymore, just based on his performances. Losing to guys like Thiago Alves, Morono, these are guys you should be beating, Cole. So I'm fading him here, and it's a pure fade. I have no idea what we're going to see from Brahimaj. I'm not going to bet this fight by any means because I just think it's too risky to bet on either way. But I'm going to take a shot with Brahimaj as a dog. Most of his wins are by submission, so maybe he gets the job done, or maybe it's just the decision. But I lean a little bit towards the dog here. Going to the next fight here, Cole, we have a featherweight bout between Darren Elkins and Eduardo Garagori. Interesting fight. Elkins minus 230, Garagori plus 190. Elkins, another guy in a 4-fight losing streak. Who's your pick here, Cole?
I don't understand the odds. I kind of have to lean towards Eduardo Garagori. Like, why would you pay minus 230 on Darren Elkins, who's on a 4-fight losing streak? Like, it has been good laws, Volkanovski, Lamas. Ryan Hall, he got dominated. The thing about Ryan Hall is that fight doesn't sit well with me because he got dominated by Ryan Hall on the feet. He was knocked down by Ryan Hall several times. Like, it's not like Ryan Hall just took him down, controlled him, nearly spit or anything. There was a stand-up fight, and he got outstruck and out-hit by Ryan Hall, which I don't think is that good of a striker. And then I lost to Nate Landwehr. I did think he won that fight, but Landwehr's a guy I'm not very high on. It really comes down to, can Elkins take Grigori down? If Elkins can take Grigori down, I think he's going to have a lot of success. If he can, I think Grigori's a better striker. I think the problem is Elkins, he just likes to get hit too much. Yeah. And he's been busted up open, so I do worry about maybe a doctor coming in and stopping it just because he gets cut open all the time. So I think Grigori hits a lot of power. I think he's going to end up hurting Elkins. Elkins is a durable guy. I don't see him finishing, but I like Grigori to win by decision.
Another interesting fight. I'm 100% with you. Why is this line so inflated now? I don't get it. Darren Elkins is a guy. Okay, so Darren Elkins is a guy you bet on as an underdog because you look into his career, he's won so many fights as an underdog. And I remember getting him back in the day against Omagawa. He was an underdog 10 years ago. I remember getting him there. He was an underdog against Zhang. He won that fight. He was an underdog against Brandel. I think he won that fight. He was an underdog against who else? Atsu Hioki. He was an underdog against what else here? Bunch of guys, man. You look at it, seriously, Cole, look at his resume here. Chas Skelly, another guy. He was a dog against. And where else? Dennis Bermudez. There's just a lot of fights, Cole, where he was a dog. And he's a guy that doesn't get respect at the sports books. And he's a guy that I know he's on a 4-fight losing streak, but I do think he's still a UFC caliber fighter because that fight with Landwehr was a really great fight, by the way. It was super close. The fight with Hall, that was disappointing by for sure. But the other losses, Cole, I mean, Volkanovski, like, it's not like these are bad losses, really. And then Lamas, he's fighting good guys, and he has great wins, too, like Bektic and Johnson. So, again, he's a guy you bet as a dog. I just wouldn't lay minus 230 on Darren Elkins. He's a guy you bet on when he's plus money, besides name, not when he's a big favorite. I don't agree with that. So I'm looking at Garagori, and I'm tempted to take him too, Cole. I gotta be honest. He only has the 2 fights in the UFC. Wasn't too impressive though. That's why I'm kind of going against him here. I'm still going to go with Elkins, even with the 4-fight losing skid. I'm still going to go with Elkins, and the reason why is because I think the wrestling is going to be the factor. I think that will be the X factor in this fight. I think he takes him down. You look at Garagori's takedown defense, Cole. It's not good. It's 53%. Taken down twice by Ramos and submitted in the first round. Taken down 4 times by Humberto Banne, who's not in the UFC anymore. Darren Elkins is not an amazing wrestler, but I think he's going to be effective enough, Cole, where he's going to be able to get Garagori against the cage, take him down a couple times, get his face bloodied up, and win a close decision. But there's no way I'd bet on this fight. I don't bet minus 230 in Elkins. Seriously, guys, look through his best fight odds history. When he wins, he's a dog. When he loses, he's the favorite. So don't even bother betting on him here. But my pick is going to be Darren Elkins. Going down to the next fight here, Cole, we have heavyweight rebooking between Marcos Rogerio de Lima and Alexander Romanov. The fight was supposed to happen a few months ago. Romanov ended up fighting Roque Martinez and absolutely smashed him. Right now we have Romanov, a huge favorite, minus 345. Marcos Rogerio de Lima, plus 285. Who's your pick?
Just think this was a pick-em when it was booked, and I was all over Romanov as a pick-em, so I'm not too happy this is what the price is at. Alexander Romanov's going to win this fight. He's going to take De Lima down at will. He's going to smash him. He's going to either ground pound Tiago him or he's going to submit him. I think he's going to be a finish. I think it's probably going to be early. He finished a lot of his fights in the first round. I'm not too impressed with De Lima. Like, if you get submitted by Stefan Struve, I'm not too rating your grounding very highly. I think Romanov's going to take him down at will and either sink it a choke or just ground pound him out and get a TKO win. I think this fight probably ends the first round, though.
I'm with you. This is the most common fight. I mean, obviously the odds are reflective of that, but I do think he wins it. I'm looking at the props now, plus 225 for TKO or plus 175 for submission. You could even think about betting on both and just taking whatever wins, because I think he's going to finish this fight. I don't see it going the distance, Cole. The under set at 1.5 rounds. I think it probably goes under. I think it probably ends in the first round as well. So my pick's going to be Romanov. The question is he get a submission or a TKO, I think. Looking at Rogerio de Lima's resume, I mean, the Stefan Struve fight got tapped out. Peru tapped him out. And Antigulov tapped him out. Krylov tapped him out. He's a guy that just has bad submission defense. And Romanov showed some submission skill. I mean, he's a guy that there's a reason he's named King Kong. And we saw that in the last fight. He gets on top, he rains on those hammer fists. It's brutal, but he does have a lot of finishes by submission as well, Nicole. So I would lean towards a submission a little bit. What are you thinking? Submission or TKO, ground and pound? What do you think?
I'm probably thinking submission, but again, if they're both plus money, like you could throw money on both. And
I agree, because you look at the inside distance, it's minus 215. A different book, to be fair, but still, they're both plus money. You could take a shot on both. I don't think the fight goes the distance. If that happens, then you're like, oh man, why didn't I just bet on him in a parlay? But yeah, I like Romanov a lot here. Everyone does. So let's go to the next fight here. This is a close fight, Cole. Trevin Giles against Pavon Lewis. It's a pick-em, I believe. Was it when I looked earlier today? Yep, minus 110 each, Cole. Who's your pick?
I like Trevin Giles here. I'm just not too high on Pavon Lewis. I think it's more of a fade. Like, he was beating Uriah Hall, which was good. But again, I think that's Uriah Hall. I think it's the Uriah Hall. That was up before Ford. I think he mentally wasn't there. And then he got caught in the third round. Darren Stewart kind of just beat him up. And his first UFC win was Daquan Townsend, who I'm not too impressed with. Trevin Giles, I don't think he won against James Krause, but still he looked good he had some moments against James Krause. Getting submitted against Mirsad Zach Cummins isn't good. That's obviously his kryptonite. He's getting submitted, but Pavon Lewis is not a ground guy, so it's going to be a stand-up fight. And I just think Trevin Giles is the better striker. I think he can even just clinch up Pavon Lewis against Cage. I think he's probably going to be bigger and stronger. So I like Giles to grind out a decision, but it's as the odds says, is a really close fight.
Yeah, it's a pick'em. So it actually opened at minus 115, I think, for Giles. So slight lean towards him. But yeah, I mean, this is a close fight. But honestly, I lean towards Lewis. There's a few reasons here. First off, he's 3 inches taller. He also has a 5-inch reach advantage, which I think is going to come into play in what looks like a close fight. To me, those physical advantages should automatically make him a small favorite here. Now, I know he's been a little disappointed in the UFC, Pavon Lewis, coming off Contender Series. We thought he was going to be amazing, and then he has a fight with Uriah Hall where he was a favorite and he ends up getting KO'd, but he was winning that fight. He was up 2 rounds to none. He got finished in the third round. Happens. The Stewart fight is a fight that disappointed me, Cole, where he just got clinched against the fence. He got beat by a bigger guy, but Stewart's a really big dude. The Townsend fight wasn't a great fight by any means. I still feel like this guy's got more to show us. I really do. I'm not saying he's going to be a champion like some people thought at one point, but I do think he's got more to show us. Trevin Giles is a guy that he's just been really inconsistent. He doesn't fight that often, Cole. I know it's a second fight this year, but he had the heart thing a few months ago with Kevin Holland. That worries me too. What happens if his heart goes out again? Like, I don't really know about this, man. Like, it's very interesting. They booked him so soon after he literally like passed out, right? So I don't know, Cole. This guy's just too inconsistent. I understand his losses were by submission in fights that he was looking pretty good in, but I just don't trust him, man. So I like Pavon Lewis, guys. I like that reach advantage. I lean towards Pavon Lewis here. I think he's going to win decision. That's going to be my pick, Pavon Lewis. I think I'm going to have to bet on it, honestly, because I do like him in this fight, but I'll look into Giles a little bit more. I respect Cole's opinion a lot. The fact he likes Giles makes me want to look into it more, but my initial thought is that Pavon Lewis is worth a play here at a pick-up price. Going to the next fight, Cole, I mean, this is a mismatch. By the way, this guy's got a great picture on Tapology. Jamie Cole sends me the tweet the other day. He goes, check out this fight. I'm like, what the hell? So obviously it's a short notice fight. Giga Chikadze taking on Jamie Simmons. Giga Chikadze, one of the hottest guys right now in this division, Cole, and he's a massive favorite, minus 470. Jamie Simmons plus 375. It actually went a little bit down because I opened at minus 485. So someone put a little bit of cash on Jamie Simmons as a big dog here, but I can't see it, Cole. What are you thinking, though?
What's kind of interesting is, I don't know if any people know this, but Giga Chikadze was actually offered Arnold Allen on short notice, and Allen turned him down. So and then Giga said, well, if you already offered me that date, give me a fight, because he's a guy that likes to fight. So what's this? His fourth fight in 2020 can join that 4-0 Kevin Holland crowd. So Giga Chikadze is just going to outstrike Jamie Simmons. Does he finish him? I don't know. Maybe. I don't even have any interest in betting this fight. Giga is way too big of a favorite. He doesn't really add much to your parlay if you add him there. So I think this is more of just to watch the fight and pass, but I wouldn't even want to bet the underdog at this point either, though.
Honestly, I think a lot of people are going to parlay. You could do a parlay. I just did it. Plus 101, Chikadze, Romanov, and Barcelos. I think a lot of people will probably do that parlay. That's even money. So, yeah, I mean, it's obviously risky because that's a big number, but I don't see how this Jamie Simmons guy wins. Giga Chikadze, like Kenshiro says in the comments, he's a machine. He is. It's his fourth fight in 2020, like you said, Cole, and overall 7-fight win streak. He's a guy that Contender Series, he didn't look like an MMA fighter. 2 years later, he is an MMA fighter now. He's got better grappling now. He's got great striking. I remember your interview with him a few weeks ago, the one with the technical malfunction, Cole. That changed my thoughts on this guy, because going into that fight, I'm like, this guy's just kind of a point fighter. But watching the interview, his mindset's a lot different than I thought. He has been winning his fights by decision, but I think this guy's a real killer, man. Watching that interview, Cole, this guy's a real killer, and I'm excited to see what he can do against Step Up. Arnold Allen, that would have been a tough fight for Arnold Allen, in my opinion. I know Allen would have been favored there because he's a machine too. He's on a roll too, but I think that Giga would have had a good chance to win. You have to pick Giga here. The question is, does he finish or does he get the decision? Simmons, taking a super short notice. Looking through his resume, he's been finished twice, once by knockout, once by submission. All of his wins, well, not all of his wins, actually. 5 of his 7 wins by stoppage. So it's tough. I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't really know. I don't have a lean really one way or the other. I guess if I had to pick, it'd probably be decision, just because that's how he's been winning his fights, Jigger. But maybe this is his coming out party, Cole. Maybe this is the fight where he's like, I'm fighting a guy that's supposed to beat, and he goes in there and knocks this guy out in the first round, which is very possible too. So I'm not sure if I'd play a prop here unless the number was really good. But I do like Jigga a lot, and I'm not blaming anyone for parlaying. And yes, the price is high, Cole, but realistically, is he going to lose this fight? I don't think so. I would give him a 95% chance of winning this fight. So I think the line could be actually even higher than this. Now, let's go to the next fight here, Cole. It is this is the main card now. It's a women's strawweight bout between Jianyan Yan and Claudia Gadelha. And right now we have the odds very close, Cole. Yan minus 120, Gadelha plus 100. Who's your pick?
I have been going back and forth on this fight. This has been the fight for me, the hardest one to pick. I could see Yan going out there and just beating Gadelha all 3 rounds. Or I could see Gadelha showing that there's kind of levels to this where she's been at the top. She's only lost to those top girls like Nantsarov, which was a close fight, Jessica Andrade, Joanna twice. Like, is Yan on that level? I don't really know. Her last one in the UFC obviously was a good one to get, but that's Karolina Kowalkiewicz, who's obviously not the same girl she was years ago. Angela Hill's a good win, but other than that, she doesn't fought any of these top girls. I don't really know how good she is. I do lean Yan slightly. I do think she is legit. I think Gadelha is starting to fade. Like, I haven't been too impressed with her last 2 fights against Hill and Marco. She hasn't looked that good in. So I'll take Yan by decision, but I don't have any interest in betting this fight. Just I could see an easy win for both the girls.
Dude, I like Yan. I'm betting on Yan here, guys. I really am. I really like her in this fight. I am fading Gadelha a little bit. She is obviously coming off a win over Hill, but I thought she lost that fight. And It was a competitive fight, but overall, she's been inconsistent the last few years. She's not the same like top prospect we thought was going to be a champion one day. She's a good fighter. She's a gatekeeper now, in my opinion, though. I think Yann is ready to break out. You look at Yann, 12-1 Cole. She hasn't lost in 10 years. Her last loss was in 2010, and since then, she's on an 11-fight unbeaten streak, 5-0 in the UFC. Yes, she's been winning her fights by decision, but she's been dominating these opponents, including and I know she's not great anymore, but Kovacevic, the way she beat her, and she just destroyed her. I just think she's got Gadelha at a good time. It's a really good time to match up with someone with the name of Gadelha. I like Yann a lot, Cole. I got to be honest, man. And I think she wins the decision here. So that's my pick, guys. But yes, I'm going to bet on Yann at minus 120 because I think she should be minus 200. I really like her in this fight. I think she wins the decision. Just outstrikes Gadelha, maybe gets a few takedowns. I'm not really sure, but that's the way I go. What's the prop on decision here? This fight's going to decision.
Gadelha's never been finished in her career.
Yeah, this fight's going to, it's plus 120. Yeah, I'm just taking the minus 120 money line then, just to be safe. Mesio says a head kick waiting to happen. I'm guessing he's on with the Jiga fight. Yeah, Cole, maybe a head kick knockout. Maybe this is going to be Jiga's coming up already. Kenshiro says, Yann, if she beats Gadelha, will have won 6 fights in a row. I'd love to see her fight Zhang. Yes, that'd be a good fight. That'd be a fun fight, Kenshiro. I really like Yann, guys. So that's my pick there. Next fight, we have this is a great fight too, in close odds. Ian Heinisch against Brendan Allen. And right now, Cole, minus 110 each. Who's your pick, man?
I'm really interested to hear your pick because I have a lean, but
I have a strong lean. I'll be honest. Go ahead, Cole.
I think I'm in the minority. I like Ian Heinisch in this fight. I think he's just a lot better than Brendan Allen. Brendan Allen, to me, I know he's undefeated in the UFC. He's looked good, but I think you have to look more into it. Kevin Holland, he lost the first round, then he choked Kevin Holland out. Holland on the ground, I don't think is that good. Tom Breeze looked good, but again, Tom Breeze, what kind of Tom Breeze was that? Aaron Jeffrey on the Contender Series, I think that was a total mismatch. In his last fight, he was supposed to steamroll Kyle Dawkins, and that was a really close fight. Kyle Dawkins almost won that fight. I think Ian Heinisch, I think people are looking too much in those losses. Derek Brunson, Omari Akhmadov, I don't think are bad losses. I think he can stuff the takedowns of Brendan Allen on the feet. I think he's a lot better striker than Brendan Allen. I think Allen needs to get this fight down to the ground, try to control him, either submit him, which I don't see Allen being able to take Heinisch down. I think Heinisch is going to be able to outpoint Allen on the feet, probably win a decision. I can't see either guy finishing them, but I wouldn't be surprised at some late finish with either one of them to kind of gas out in the third. Yeah,
I forgot I mentioned this for the last fight. According to the UFC stats, Yann's landing 6.72 strikes per minute, significant strikes per minute through her 5 fights, and compared to only 3.4 for Gadelha. So that's another reason I like her in that fight a lot. And also her takedown defense, 70%. Getting into this fight, Cole, I mean, this is a great fight. I think this is one of the best fights in the card. But I got to be honest, guys, I love Brendan Allen in the spot. I really like Brendan Allen here. There's a few reasons why. Number one, age advantage. He's 24 compared to 32 for Ian Heinisch. Ian Heinisch is a late bloomer in the sport. I get that, but Brendan Allen is a young stud prospect, and he's getting better every time we see him. I'm really high on this kid. I think he's going to go really far in the sport, possibly. Actually, his nickname's called All In. I'm all in on him, man. I really am. This guy is a future top 10 fighter, and it probably won't be that long, maybe next year. There's another reason I like him. He's 3 inches taller. There's another reason I like him. He has a 3-inch reach advantage. So there's a lot of reasons I like him. Also, you look at his recent run, Cole, overall record of 15-3, but right now he's on a 7-fight win streak, and he's 3-0 in the UFC. He beat Dawkins, great fight, looked good in that fight. Breeze smashed him. Kevin Holland submitted him. That's such a good win. That's a great win. Even going back, Aaron Jeffrey submitted him to get in the UFC. He does have the 2 losses to Anderson Hernandez. I think he's improved a lot since then. Now, getting to Ian Heinisch, because you got to talk about both sides. You can't just talk about one side. Ian Heinisch looked incredible in his last fight against Mearshart. I remember we were DMing. We were like, wow, I didn't see that coming. Because I think we both picked Mearshart. But overall in the UFC, I don't think he's looked that good, man. I know he's fought okay, to be fair to this guy, he's fought really tough competition. Ever since getting the UFC, he's fought good fighters. So I get that. But he wasn't that impressive in those fights. I understand he's durable. I get that. He's got good cardio. He's a tough dude. I just think Allen's the next level, man. And you look at Allen, that submission game, and you look at Heinisch, the one loss by stoppage to Marcus Perez by submission. If this fight goes to the ground, I think Brendan Allen could submit him. He submitted Kevin Holland, who's a better fighter in the ground, I think, than Ian Heinisch. So I love Brendan Allen here, guys. Again, I respect Cole's opinion, and I could be wrong about this one, guys, but I really like Brendan Allen in this fight. I'm curious to hear what you guys think. Actually, Ken Shiro already has a comment. He says he likes Allen. Smart and slick. Outsmart Heinisch. We'll see. Look at the odds. There's a reason the odds are competitive. It's a close fight. Heinisch is the guy who's ranked. Allen's the guy who's trying to take his ranking. But again, Cole, 8-inch age advantage, 3-inch reach advantage. Those are things I like. I love those physical advantages. So that's my pick. That's just part of, the way I game plan picking fights. I look for those advantages, and that's what I see here. All right. But you know what, Cole? That's going to be one of my picks. That's my sleeper pick for fight of the night, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
That's an amazing fight. I don't even know if it's a sleeper. It's just a great fight. Now, going to the next fight, Henry Barcelos against Khalid Taha. I did mention this earlier, the odds. Barcelos -3. Where is it? -350 and Taha +290. I'm assuming you're picking Barcelos, right?
I like Barcelos, even though he's taking this fight on short notice. Yeah. I'm still not too high on Khalid Taha. Like, his wins in the UFC aren't. When he beat Boston Salmon, it looked like a good win at the time. But looking back, I don't think that's a very good win. Like, he showed he wasn't UFC caliber. Bruno Silva, to me, is a guy that's getting cut. And then other than that, he lost to Nad Narimani. So I just think Randy Barcelos is a different kind of level than Khalid Taha. I think he's better everywhere on the feet. I think he's better. His last win was Satan Nurmagomedov, which looks really good at this time. He's beat Chris Gutierrez, which looked good. He's beaten on the regional scenes like Bobby Moffitt, Dan Moret, beat Kurt Hollabaugh. Like, I'm really impressed with Randy Barcelos. I think he might be able to finish Khalid Taha here. Taha has been submitted before, so I wouldn't be surprised if Barcelos wins a submission or if he goes distance, but I'm all over Randy Barcelos here.
Wow. My mouth's just wide open, guys. So I'm looking at the props. This doesn't make sense to me. First off, he's -350 Barcelos. He's going to finish this fight. Barcelos by submission +400. Barcelos by TKO +415. Decision is only +140. The books are favoring this fight to go the distance. Cole, I'm putting a bet on those props, man. +400 for TKO and submission. I lean a little bit towards a submission, to be honest with you. Taha has been submitted before. That's where I'm leaning towards, but it could be TKO. I think he finishes this fight. And again, I don't love playing props. There's value on those props, Cole. I think you're going to agree with me on that. +400 for both those finish props. What do you think?
Yeah, I actually don't mind those. Again,
that's
I think
crazy.
That's one that you can bet both of them.
Yep, exactly. I think there's value there, guys. So definitely take a look. If you're a prop player, you have to play those props. Going to the next fight here, co-main event, Cole. Great fight. The Canadian Tanner Boser taking on Andrei Arlovski. Love the matchup here, Cole. Boser, big favorite, -270. Arlovski +230. You think the Pitbull's got what it takes to pull off the upset here, or you think Boser gets another win in the UFC?
I like Tanner Boser. I think this is good matching for the UFC. I think they see something in Tanner Boser. I still don't understand that matchup with him and Cyril Gane last year. I didn't understand at the time. I still don't understand looking back. Because I think both these guys are two of the top heavyweight prospects they have. I think this is a fight where they're looking to put Boser past Arlovski. Arlovski, his chin has showed up lately, other than the Rosenstruck fight. He got knocked out, but going the distance with Lins, Rothwell, Augusto Sakai, Walt Harris, Shamil, Tai Tuivasa, Struve. That's been a big knock on his chin, but his chin's been there as of late, which has been surprising because that one stretch, he was getting finished all the time, and everyone thought he was that Miocic over him and gone stretch, where everyone's like, man, his chin's gone, he's getting knocked out. But so I don't really know if Boser will be able to finish him. I think Boser on the feet's a lot faster. I think he's going to be able to just jab up Arlovski. I like Boser in this fight. I don't know if he'll be able to finish Arlovski. I wouldn't be surprised, but I kind of lean towards Boser by decision.
That's where I'm leaning too. I like Boser in this fight a lot. Just way more young. He's way younger. I mean, look at the age difference. 29 and Arlovski's 40, right? So there's a massive age difference right there, obviously. Now, not only that, but Boser's been red hot. He's been fighting often, which I love too. He's looked great during the summer. He knocked out Philippe Lins. He knocked out Rafael Passos, and KO power. Also has the win over Spitz. Now, the one lost to Gane. And to be honest, he didn't even look that bad in that fight. He didn't get finished either. Now, the thing is, this is a step up when you think about it, because Arlovski's a former champion. He's a guy who's been around forever. And Cole, he's had these fights like the Lins fight or the Rothwell fight last year where he looked incredible. He just pulls off these great fights once in a while. So he's not completely shot. His chin's not completely gone somehow. When he fights a real heavy hitter like Yair Rosenstruck, he'll get KO'd. But I think a guy like Boser, he's even said in interviews, Cole, he's like, this guy's chin's not as bad as people are thinking. I think this fight goes the distance. I think he wins the decision. I like Boser here, guys. Arlovski, you got to give him a little bit of respect. Obviously, he's been around forever. He's a legend, but I just don't trust. It's 2020. He's still fighting. This guy's been fighting for over 20 years in the UFC on and off. So got to go against Arlovski. It's a fade on him. I fade him every fight. I'm not stopping here, Cole. I pick against Arlovski every single fight. It usually pans out. And I'm not stopping here. Boser by a decision, by the way, is +165. So if you like that, you can take a shot at that. And Kenshiro mentions he's 42. So yeah, Arlovski's he's way up there in age now. Love the guy, like legend. He's 41 actually, Kenshiro, but he's turning 42 next year. You got to bet against him. All right, and then let's go to the main event, Cole. We still have to talk about Contender Series. Amazing fight here. Thiago Santos against Glover Teixeira. I'm really glad they rebooked this fight. It's the third time they rebooked it. Both guys got COVID-19, so you hope both guys are 100% here for this fight because in my mind, it's a number one contender fight, although with Yann fighting Israel next, we'll talk about that in a few minutes. I don't know where the winner sits, but either way, we have Thiago Santos right now, minus 230, Glover Teixeira plus 190. I should also mention the over-under for this fight is set at 1.5 rounds, which I'm really surprised by. I'm shocked by that because it's a 5-round. I think it's a 5-round fight, so. Yeah. I don't understand why the over-under is at 1.5, guys. I think you kind of got to take the over there, but give me your thoughts on who you think wins the fight, Cole.
I'm disappointed because this fight now means absolutely nothing because the winner of this would have been getting a title shot, and now you don't even – now they're likely going to have to, fight the winner of Yuri Reyes because Yann Adesanya is probably going to happen in March, and then so say Adesanya wins, and he's going to want to go back down to middleweight or fight John Jones. So then – it just kind of holds up the light heavyweight divisions now. Both these guys are just kind of sitting. And especially for Glover if he wins, because he is already up there in age. He can't really afford to wait another year to get that title shot. But I do like Thiago Santos in this fight. I think Santos has to finish this fight early, though. I think he has to finish it in the first or second round, because as we saw in Glover's last fight against Anthony Smith, he could take a lot of this damage in the third, fourth, fifth round. He just keeps coming on. And I wonder if Santos has that cardio there. He did go 5 rounds against John Jones, but I do think he can knock out Glover second, third round. I like him to win by knockout, but man, I'm really looking forward to this fight.
Yeah, this is a great fight. But like I said, Cole, I really like that that total, guys, because I think this should have been set at 2.5 or 3.5, maybe even 1.5. You got to go with the over there, I think. 5-round fight. I understand they both got power. They both got, Glover's got submissions. It could end early, but I favor it to end like, I feel like it's going to go like the Anthony Smith fight, Cole. That's kind of how I'm thinking this fight goes. It's kind of like a drag on him out fight. And I'm taking the dog here, Cole. Surprisingly, when I take Glover Teixeira, guys, I think it's a really close fight. And at plus 190, I got to take a shot on Glover. He's looked incredible lately. He's a guy I've always liked. I've always liked Glover Teixeira coming up. I know he's had some bad losses and get KO'd a few times, but he's looked incredible lately. The Anthony Smith fight was just an epic performance by him. You look at the stats, landed 138 significant strikes. It was just a devastating performance. Landed over 200 total strikes in that fight. Just beat the shit out of Anthony Smith. He beat Nikita Krylov. I know it was a split decision, but that was a good performance against a guy who was a lot younger than him. Beat Kutalaba, submitted him, beat Roberson. The Corey Anderson fight was a bad style matchup for him against a guy who's actually a better wrestler than him. But overall, Glover's wrestling is incredible. And look what he did to Misha, too. Jared Cannonier, he's got great wins. Of course, he's got KO'd. Gus knocked him out. Rumble knocked him out. But he's a guy who's pretty durable, and he's a guy who, physically matches up well with Santos. Like, yes, Glover's 41, but Santos is 36. The other problem with Santos is, first off, I thought he beat John Jones, guys, so I'll put that out there. I did think he won that fight, 48-47, but he got injured badly in that fight, and he hasn't fought in a year and a half after having double knee surgery. So I know he has – the crazy thing is, Cole, everyone's talking about Yann Blackwitz. He knocked him out last year in February. I remember doing that card for Sherdog when I worked there. So it wasn't that long ago, and he has massive knockout power. We've seen that time and time again, but I just favor Glover to take the fight into deep water and grind out Santos on the ground. Maybe get a finish. Santos has been submitted. He's been knocked out before. I don't think the fight goes the distance. I'll say that, Cole. I'm pretty sure it ends inside the distance. So that is minus 490. So I think everyone agrees on that. No big surprise there. But like I said, guys, I do favor the over because you look at both guys' last kind of little run here. Thiago Santos' last 5 fights have gone past 1.5 rounds. And you look at Glover Teixeira and his last 3 fights have got his last 3 fights and 4 of his last 5 fights have gone over 1.5. So I'm looking at that total, and I'm curious to hear what anyone else has to say about that. But Cole, I think you agree with me because I think it should be set at 2.5 rounds, guys. Yeah. So minus 1.5, it almost makes you think like, do the books think this is a 3-round fight and not a 5-round fight? That's the only thing I can think. All right, we're done with this, Cole. UFC. We got to go do Contender Series. We don't have a ton of time, guys. So, Cole, this card we're just going to go kind of through quickly, all right?
Yep.
So, go to Contender Series. That's on Wednesday night, guys. Obviously, the election's tonight. So, let's start with the heavyweight fight. Starting off the card, Cole. Jared Vanderaa against Harry Hunsucker, which is an all-time great name in MMA. Vanderaa minus 255. Hunsucker plus 195. Who's your pick?
I like Vanderaa. He comes for good camp. He's one of Dominic Reyes and Sam Alvey's main training partners. He's a guy that I think could have been in the UFC. I like him to win this fight. I think he's probably going to knock out Harry Hunsucker, but it's hefty odds for him. I hate betting Contender Series.
We got to talk about it because there's money to be made on this card, but I don't think this is a good fight to bet on either because you look at Van Cole, and yes, he does have a lot of finishes in his career, but he really hasn't beaten anyone good, and he has some bad losses too. Like, he actually lost 2 fights ago, so yeah, he beat Tony Lopez and Ruan Potts. Ruan Potts, by the way, was one of the worst fighters ever in the UFC. Remember him, Cole? He was a terrible heavyweight. He was terrible. So that's not even a good win. And Hunsucker, he's won his last 5 fights by finish. He also has a loss against Dontel Mays. That's his only notable real opponent. I think it's dog or pass, guys. I would rather bet on Hunsucker plus 195 to maybe get a knocker here, but I'm not touching this fight. No thanks. No thanks. I don't have a strong lean in it. Now, the next fight's interesting, Cole. Vince Murdoch coming back for rare brain disease, and he's taking on Luis Saldana here. And right now, Saldana minus 170, Vince Murdoch plus 140. What do you think?
This is a really interesting fight. I do like Vince Murdoch, but I don't know if I bet because he has Saldana is like a 10-inch reach advantage over him. Wow. Like, that is massive. But I think Murdoch got screwed. This guy was signed to the UFC. He has some brain thing, and then they tell him, actually, we're going to put you on the Contender Series. Your UFC contract's kind of voided now. They couldn't even give him a UFC fight because now he could lose this. His whole comebacks for naught. Like, don't have that story and whatnot. Like, they could have just marketed this as he's come back from this rare disease, making his UFC debut, but they're putting on the Contender Series. He's not even the main event either, which I don't get, but I'll take Murdoch. I think he's an all-around better fighter. I think on the ground he's better. I think on the feet he's better, but again, the reach advantage is scaring me away from him, though.
I forgot to get this comment from Masio. He said Glover's jiu-jitsu is better. Yes, it's much better than Thiago Santos. There's no doubt about it. I mean, he's one, like, Cole, he might be the best submission guy in the light heavyweight division. So I think you'd agree with that. This fight, you got to fade Vince Murdoch. Unfortunately, I think you have to fade him here because of the brain issue, Cole. I mean, I just don't trust the guy at all. Am I going to bet on Saldana? I don't know. Probably not. Right now, he's minus one. Went down a little bit, minus 155 now. So, I mean, yeah, I'm going to lean towards Saldana because I think Murdoch, with that serious issue he had with his brain, is a huge fade here. But not really interested in betting it. This Gloria DePaula Pauline Macias fight was postponed for 2 weeks. DePaula tested positive for COVID-19. The next fight here, Cole, huge odds on this one. Ignacio Bahamondes versus Edson Gomez, and Ignacio right now is a huge favorite, Cole, minus 425, Gomez plus 320. I got to be honest, Cole, I think this is dog or pass. What do you think?
Yeah, I do think Ignacio wins this fight, but no way you can lay that kind of money. A Contender Series, if you're above minus 200, don't bet him. It's just strictly, I don't know where the odds makers, half these guys, you can't even really find much tape on them. So I don't know where the odd makers are setting these lines, but he should win. I'm not very high in Gomez. I think this is, I don't know, but again, don't bet this fight. Yeah, if you're going to bet it, you have to bet the underdog.
Yeah, I think it's worth taking a shot on him because he's such a big dog, plus 320. If you want to put like $20 on him or something, like something small, just to take a shot on him. If you want action, I'm just saying, I think Gomez can win for sure. Look at his resume. Now, he's been fighting Cans in Gladiator Challenge and King of the Cage. So keep that in mind. He's been fighting terrible competition, but he's been finishing them all. So, I mean, at least he's knocking the guys out. It's only 29 too. Now, Ignacio 23, so younger, but he's already lost 3 times in his career, Cole. So, I mean, this guy's not unbeatable. He probably does win the fight, and there's a reason why he's such a big favorite. He's a lot younger, like I said, but I wouldn't mind taking a shot on Gomez here if you want action, but you got to be careful with Contender Series. Now, the main event here, Cole, go through this one quickly. Carlos Alberg against Bruno Oliveira. Alberg minus 225. Oliveira plus 175. It opened like a pick'em. So right now, Alberg getting all the action. What do you think?
I don't understand this. Bruno Oliveira, I was going to be all over Bruno Oliveira against KB Bowler. I thought he was going to smoke KB Bowler.
Yeah.
Bruno Oliveira, I know this fight's happening at light heavyweight just because of the short notice. Yep. Alberg is a teammate of Adesanya. He's one of the main training partners, so I get why he's getting that push, but I have to go with Bruno Oliveira. I was picking Oliveira when it was pick him on, so now that it's this, like, give Bruno Oliveira. He's got his last fight, he knocked out Jared Gooden in 53 seconds, who we're seeing fight in the UFC, through 2-3 weeks from now?
Yep.
Carlos Olberg's a decorated kickboxer. Tapology on the shoulders, kickbox fights, but he's been fighting kickbox for a while. But his last MMA fight was in 2018. Would I be surprised if Bruno Oliveira goes out there, takes him down, submits him? I wouldn't, because we see Oliveira has some submission wins on his record. He is a striker, but I wouldn't be surprised if he goes, takes him down, and just because I don't know what Oliveira's takedown defense is like, but I like the underdog in Oliveira. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this is a total setup fight for City Kickboxing to get another guy in the UFC, but I have to take a shot at Oliveira at these odds.
I kind of lean towards Alberg here, guys. I mean, the UFC's setting him up for a win. I think they flew in Israel Adesanya to be in his corner, and this guy is so high on this guy. Adesanya is so high on this guy, and he's a City Kickboxing guy. That gym has so much momentum right now. But Oliveira, way more experienced than MMA, and yeah, the problem with him is he's 36, Cole, so he's really old, but he's a really experienced guy. And Cole, think about it. He knocked out Gooden, and Gooden's in the UFC. Why is he not in the UFC? I don't really understand that. But yeah, I mean, it's probably Dogger Pascal, but I lean towards Oliver doing that fight. But again, not a ton of interest in Contender series unless I really see something I like. And on this card, the only guy, like I said, maybe take a shot on Gomez as a big dog or something. But, you could just play all the dogs, Cole, because I wouldn't be surprised if you them win. All right, we don't have much time here, guys. We got less than 5 minutes. So I'm going to go rapid fire with Cole on these ones. All right, Cole? Ready to go? All right, cool. Conor McGregor, trilogy fight with Nate Diaz. Does it happen in 2021?
No.
It doesn't. I think it does. I think it'll happen end of 2021. That's my opinion. Because I think he'll probably fight for the belt at some point and lose. That's kind of what I'm thinking. But we'll see. I mean, maybe he beats – I don't really know if Poirier fight's going to be for belt. We don't even know if that fight's going to happen. UFC might change their mind. Looks like there's a contract dispute now with Poirier. So I don't know what's happening there, Cole. Ultimate Fighters coming back for season 29. You got to pick two coaches. Who they're going to be.
Masvidal, Covington.
Yeah, that's what I said. I think it makes so much sense. Some people suggested Adesanya and Blachowicz. I just feel like that'd be so boring.
Yann's not a no.
I actually like Yann's personality, but I don't think most people would. I know you've interviewed.
And English is not his first language.
He's not bad if he's getting better, but I really like Yann. But yeah, he's got a funny sense of humor, guys. But it's like a black sense of humor. I don't think most people would really get his humor. Floyd Mayweather says he'll box MMA fighters, but not actual boxers. But I'll take actually.
Yeah, because he could make $400 million for the easiest fight.
Does Floyd Mayweather fight in 2021 against an MMA fighter?
I hope not.
In the boxing ring. No, I
hope not, because if it's an MMA fight, it's going to be Conor again.
They'll find someone, man. Let's go to some fight announcements real quick. Adesanya and Blachowicz, we haven't talked about it, Cole. Just give me your quick thoughts. Like I said, we don't have much time.
I don't like it at all.
Okay.
I think they both have – this fight this weekend should have been Yann's first title defense.
Yeah.
Adesanya has a lot of options. You could do that Whitaker rematch. You could wait to see if Hermanson beats Till. Because to be honest, I don't really know if Adesanya Blachowicz sells any more than Adesanya Hermanson. That was the big talk of Hermanson's not a draw, but I don't think Yann's a big draw either.
Yeah. I mean, he could be more so now, but he's a guy that's always kind of underrated or underappreciated by fans and media. So it's interesting they're doing it. I got to be honest. I was surprised when they announced it, but they like the fight. The odds are out, and is he right now minus 300, I think? No, he's down to minus 255. Blachowicz plus 215. Those odds are kind of nuts to me. I think Blachowicz has a good chance to win that fight, but I don't have a pick right now. Mike Perry versus Tim Means, short notice fight. Who do you like? Don't tell me who you like actually, but like, what are your thoughts on the fight?
I could see path Vegas for both guys. I think it's a good fight. Yeah. I might be in the wrong here, but I think it's more competitive than what Perry Lawler would have been.
I think so too. I love Tim Means. He's a great fighter. Abdul Razak Alhassan versus Khaos Williams.
This is a good fight. I'm looking forward to this fight. Khaos Williams was supposed to fight a couple of weeks ago, or actually last week. That fight didn't happen. It's kind of unknown who his opponent is, but it was going to be a good fight. I don't know if I like that fight better this one, but I'm looking forward to this fight.
Has this guy legally changed his name to Khaos? Because if that's the case, that's pretty freaking awesome, man. That's a great name. There were some other women's fights that got announced too. We should mention them quickly. Cynthia Calvillo is going to take on Kaylin Chukagian, which is kind of I don't understand it either, because Laura Murphy's like, I wanted to sign the contract. She said she fell asleep. UFC matchmakers did another fight. She said she had a nap and she missed a phone call. I don't know what happened, Cole, but that's what she's saying. And then the other fight they did was Amanda Ribas against Michelle Watterson, which is a really good fight. Number 9 against number 6. And I'm pretty sure Ribas would be a big favorite there, Cole.
Yep.
We're done. Great show today, Cole. I want you to plug all your stuff, man.
Twitter, AfterShow91. The show this week is Ian Heinisch, Max Griffin, Hermes Bragg, Marshall, stories with all them, fighter picks for the main event. Everything else always on my Twitter.
Sweet. Now, you guys can find me on Twitter at MMAOB as always. So definitely send me a message there. I love hearing from you guys and about the podcast. So definitely do that. I'll be back on Thursday morning at 10 a.m. to break down Bellator 251, Corey Anderson versus Melvin Manhoff. We do actually have odds for that, by the way. They gave 2 odds to us. Whoever's doing the Bellator odds were nice, Cole, and they gave it to us a few days early, because usually they come out on fight day, these Bellator odds. Over at MMAOddsbreaker.com, I got a bunch of articles coming up, guys. UFC opening odds, Bellator opening odds. So if you're curious how the line moved, definitely take a look at that. MMA Rings on that, got an article on Anderson Silva. Definitely check that one out, because he gave some options about potential fights. We did talk about it a little bit earlier, but if you want to read more. and bjpen.com, and all the news there. I also have an article coming out at odds.com. I don't know if I announced that yet, but I did join that website, odds.com. So looking forward to that. And, hopefully Cole can come on at some point as well. And I want to do a podcast there because they got really good viewership. But as you guys know, I love doing this podcast with Cole every Tuesday morning at 10 a.m. and Thursday at 10 a.m. here on MMAOBsRegulator.com. Subscribe, like, listen, tell your friends about it, guys. I appreciate it. Truly appreciate our listeners, guys. Have a great couple of days. I'll be back on Thursday morning. See you. Bye.